back to the channel. Now this is the most expensive burl available on eBay. The search I did was Woodturning burl, sorted it from prices highest to lowest, and this came out on the top. I did filter it to those in the UK because I didn't want to be paying absolute fortunes in postage from around the world. So anyway, this is it. It came a couple of months ago, and I've sat on it until now because I've been kind of scared. I did consider having a peek at it, but that would kind of spoil the fun, and I wanted to do it in front of you lot. So this is it. Right, let's have a look. Always pretty. So this is a Thuya burl. It grows in the Atlas mountain range in Morocco, and this one is actually from Morocco. You can also find them in the south of Spain and in Portugal as well, but this is from the Atlas Mountains in Morocco. And it cost me £150. Oh, it's written there. It's 14 inches wide, 4 inches deep, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. I've only seen pictures before, and the pictures looked amazing, but this is really quite beautiful. Now, the Thuya tree is a softwood tree, which the rest of the wood has no real commercial value, but the burrs, which are generally taken from the base of the tree, are renowned for their beauty, and this one seems to be no exception. Now, as I said, I've just opened this, and I've had a few ideas. I've looked at the photographs obviously before I bought it, and I've got a few ideas what to do with it, but until you actually get something open and have a good look at it, you're never quite sure exactly what you're going to do. Now, this weighs an absolute ton, so it is going to be interesting. We've got quite a lot of burr. We've got some beautiful figure in the wood round here, absolutely gorgeous. We've got a small bit of bark inclusion, obviously a knot there, a bit of a hole there. Now, when I looked at the photographs, this area here looked like normal wood grain, but now I'm looking closer to it, there's still quite a lot of figure in there, which is good to see. Look at the other side. Plenty of figure. Obviously we've got some bark on this side, so initially thinking this is going to be the bottom, so the bowl can turn upwards. Let's look at the edges. Right, we've got a few bark inclusions and a bit there. Wow, that looks nice. That looks incredible and nice and beautiful and clean. That's the bark inclusion. Excellent. We've got a swirl there, obviously from a protrusion, or sorry, a branch coming out. So, okay, that looks pretty good. Right, now I'm just going to give myself a few moments to have a good think about this. Because like I said, this is the first time I've actually seen it live in my hands. So I'm going to have a little think about what to do with it, and I'll bring you back in a second. Okay, I've had a good look at this, and I'm excited but still quite nervous. It's a big imposing piece. It's 14 inches across, and I want to try and make as much of this area usable as possible in terms of functionality. The bowl area itself is going to go from corner to corner, from edge to edge. So as soon as we finish the outside shape, it's going to go straight into the bowl shape. There's not going to be a lip, as it were. Now, given that shape in mind, the outside of the bowl needs to be something fairly robust and blocky to keep it balanced, as it were. balanced in terms of design, not balanced as in terms of wobbleness. So I did consider having feet on this, but with the weight, the feet I would feel will do damage to any surface it's left on, because it really is quite heavy. So the outside, I'm just going to do a nice gradual curve into about 50 mil from the center, something like that. We'll have put an external tenon on this as opposed to a recess, and then we can turn off a nice flat foot at the end. And that flat foot, as I say, is just going to gradually curve up to the rim. Now that's going to keep an awful lot of the weight in the piece, so it's going to feel robust, strong, and when we can put a nice finish on it as well, it's going to look absolutely stunning. So I think the best way to get started is find the center. We use a faceplate. I'm not going to use a worm screw on this because it's a little bit big, so we'll put a faceplate on, get it on the lathe, and we'll get started. Okay, we're on the lathe. Tailstock is locked off to keep us nice and safe. Initially we're going to be turning about 500 RPM. I've got a 1/2 inch bowl gouge all sharpened and ready. Now I did quickly check online to make sure that there's no safety implications with turning Thuya bowl, and it's all fairly fine, so there's no extra precautions we need to take. Sorry, that really hurt. Some of the chips coming off there were really painful. So right, glove on and we'll start again. That's beautiful. Okay, we're only cutting this half at the moment. We've still got to take it down to that, so I want to get this bottom flat first. Now, the first initial impressions are that it turns absolutely fine. The little bits coming off really hurt the hand, so taking precautions that way. But also the smell, it's almost identical to cedar. If you've turned cedar, you know that very, very strong smell you get from that, and this is virtually the same. Right, let's get this flat and then start working up the sides. Okay, we're working in nicely from the edges. This needs to all come out, so we'll work our way through that. Not quite sure how deep it goes, but I'm sure we're going to find out. Now this is quite a deep piece. It's 4 inches thick, and I quite like this heavy side here, this depth, so I might not take this curve all the way to the top. I'll see. All right, carry on, we're on the sides. I'm just going to go and sharpen up again to see if that makes much of a difference on these cuts. Okay, I'm all sharpened up again. Now I've just put a mark on there where the tenon's going to be. I'm going to be using the larger jaws because obviously we've got a larger piece here, so I'm not taking any risks with the tenon breaking off or anything like that. So that's where the tenon's going to be. So the foot is going to start just on the outside of that, to give you a shoulder to rest the tenon into. So continue working down. We're going to get rid of that, and we're going to be stopping around that area. Right, I'm getting to a point where I've got to start making a decision about this edge and what I'm going to do with this. So I think initially I'm going to get it round and then take another quick look at it. As I was turning that, I had an idea. If I take this curve up to possibly around that point, maybe a little bit higher, and then this top edge, just put a little curve, a little chamfer in to the edge, to the inside. That might look quite nice. Okay. I think it'll look quite sophisticated. Right, so I'm going to work this curve up to that yellow line and then see about the next bit. Okay, sharpened up again, but I noticed that there's quite a build-up of the resin, the sap inside the flute, so I'll just spend a little while trying to pick that out. We'll carry on. Okay, so that's got it up to that point. I'm just going to quickly have some lunch and then we'll figure out the next plan. Okay, I've had my lunch, I've come back and I've been thinking about this a bit. Now I want to put some sort of decoration on here. I'm not entirely sure about my original idea, but I do want to do something. So I think the first thing I need to do first is to try and get this top bit all at the same level, because there's about half an inch difference in the height of the rim at the moment. So I'm just going to get a skew and just cut in to try and make sure that the top of this piece is all one height. So now I know where the top of the bowl is going to be. I can take a look at where I can put a pattern in. And I'm thinking of just getting a round nose scraper and just putting a small cove in here, this area. So we've got that. This is just a 1/2 inch round nose scraper, which I'm just going to present to the surface and just take it in. It's going to be more towards this edge than this one. I like that. In fact, I like that so much. I'll put another one in next to it. Right, that's going to need some fine tuning a little bit later on, but at least I know what I'm doing with that top edge now. Right, so I will get my gouge back out, finalise this curve and make the tenon at the bottom. Right, I've been thinking a bit more about this top edge. I like these two coves, but I think we can do a little bit more about it to accentuate the bowl. What I'm going to do is this, rather than it being flat here, I'm going to angle it in slightly and put the two coves back in so they're more visible from like above the bowl than just the side. Okay, I'm happy with that. That looks an awful lot better, a lot sharper, a lot more interesting. The coves were easier to cut that time, mainly because I'd sharpened the scraper. I was using it the first time round and it was still fairly blunt, so that's why I struggled the first time round with it. Right, okay, so next thing is I think sanding. I think we're there. Right, so I'll set up for sanding. I'll let you watch a bit of it like normal, and I shall bring you back when it's done. Okay, I've had a request from Michael Glaken about how this works, how I managed to turn on my vacuum with this little device. It's quite simple. It's a little kit of plugs that I got from Amazon, and they're literally just remote control plugs. For instance, my compressor is on number 2. I can turn it on and turn it off. Likewise, my vacuum's on number 1. Turn it on, turn it off. It just makes life an awful lot easier in the workshop. I don't have to walk all the way around to turn on switches and stuff like that. Now this one came with 3 plug sockets. This one's currently unused, but you can get them. I think we've got to about 5 or 6 plug sockets, so you get about 5 or 6 sets of buttons on here, and they're actually quite handy. I'll put a link in the description below in case you're interested in these. Okay, I've just stopped for a quick second just to quickly show you something which I've never come across before in my history of wood turning. I'll put a brand new disc on my drill. Now I'm going to sand this little area for about 3 seconds and then show you something. The resin in the wood is just filling up the disc as fast as you can sand. It comes off, you can just use a compressor to blow it off, but it's going to make life slow going, I think. It's going to make things very, very slow going, but we'll get there. That was not a fun sanding experience. This is the most horrible thing in the entire world to sand. It's borderline impossible, but we got there. Right, cleaning it off with a bit of isopropyl to get any loose residue. And I think I'll put a shellac sealer over the top of this, and then we're going to go over with an abrasive paste. Okay, we're going on with a blonde sealer, a shellac sealer that we've used plenty of times before. Our Thuya bowl will darken over time. It will go much darker than it is now, but it will do that naturally. But you can't help but be amazed at this intense figure in this. absolutely mind-blowing. Right, I'll put on 2 coats, then I'll bring it back and we'll put an abrasive paste on this. Normally I wouldn't use abrasive paste on burls because it tends to get stuck in all the holes, but there's no holes in this. It's all, those little black dots aren't holes, they're all full. Okay, that's the time to dry, so I'm going to go on with the True Grit abrasive paste. I'm going to give this a good going over with plenty of paste to make sure we can try and polish out and give it a nice high shine at the end. Okay, we'll start it off with a slow speed and then build it up. Okay, and now we're going to wipe off all the excess. Excellent. Right, let it evaporate, and I'll put some shellac over the top. Okay, I'm going to put on 2 coats of this shellac, cut it back with a bit of wire wool, and then put on another 1 or 2 coats. I'm not going to make you sit through all that. So I will, once I put this first coat on, I'll bring you back when we start to hollow out the inside. Now, because of the problems we had with the sanding, if you look very, very close, you can still see a couple of scratches in the wood, but there was just no way of getting them out. You couldn't sand in a prolonged area for any point, any period of time, because the well, you saw what happened to the sandpaper. It just instantly filled up with gunk, and then you were scuppered again. But it just looked rather nice. So I'm happy. Okay, right, I'll bring you back when the outside is done and we'll start the inside. Okay, we've turned around and all set up again, using the tailstock support at the start, because obviously this is still quite a weight. I've sharpened up and we'll get started. Starting off, we're going to flatten off the surface and then figure out what we're going to do about this bowl. Okay, I've got it flat, well, flattish anyway. That grain is just absolutely amazing. We've got this kind of a bark inclusion there to worry about, possibility of one there. It's looking okay. With burls like this, you're always going to find this kind of bark inclusion, so we're just going to almost continue as if it wasn't there. Right, I'm just going to sharpen up again. I'm going to start hollowing this out, and then I've got to rethink my thoughts about, do I take this bowl right up to the edge, or do I allow myself a little rim there and put this same kind of flute that I've got on the side? So a little way off before we decide that, so sharpen up and start hollowing out a bit. Awful lot of chattering going on. It doesn't like being cut. I may just switch to a carbide for a second, just see how I get on with that. Okay, time to decide. Do I replicate the flutes on the edge on here, or do I take this bowl right up to the side? I think I'll put in one flute, see how that looks, and then we'll decide after that. Do I put another in? Okay, one more, see how that looks. Right, I'll stick with these two floats. As time progresses, if we don't like them, or if I don't feel it balances and sits well, then I can always come back and take them back out. Okay, back onto hollowing. Oops. Okay. She's all right. She will live. Oh, blimey. No. Right, I'm gonna have to redo that edge. So obviously hit the wall or something there. So that edge is going to really need to be sorted. And there, okay. Right. It's had a bit of a tumble, crikey, that edge as well. Right, it had a bit of a tumble. Looks like, I don't know, I think I must have got a, yeah, there you go. I've got a catch with the carbide and it's just kicked the whole thing off. It's torn it out of there, so. Right, proceed with caution. What should we do first? Should we fix problems or shall we? Right, I think I'll just take this down flatter, put the tailstock back in, and then start repairing the damage we've done to the edges. Okay, no worries. Okay, we've recovered and we've got an extra feature. Right, let's carry on hollowing out. Now I've got to figure out how deep I want this to go. When I was cutting that fine edge there, I was mirroring the angle on the outside. So I guess probably about another inch down from that point. Glad that's over. Right, I'm going to sharpen up my big scraper and sort out the inside of this. Okay, and I want to try and get this as perfect as I can before sanding, because sanding is really hard on this stuff, as you saw at the start. So there's virtually no imperfections in this at all. There's no tool marks, so I'm going to be able to start at a much higher grit, because it was the heavy grits that put me back so much on the other side. Because once there's a scratch in there, it's very hard to get off, because the sand pad, the sanding disc, just builds up with wax. Sorry, with the kind of sap from this so quickly that it becomes useless in moments. Right, I'm going to set up for sanding. I'll let you watch a bit of it, and I shall bring you back when it's done. I don't think I've ever come across anything quite so horrible to sand. If you've used this wood before, if you've come across the same problems that I'm having, if you could leave a comment as to what you did, and I'd be very grateful. Right, what I'm going to try now, it's a reasonable surface, it's a nice finish, but I want to go a bit further, so I'm going to put a bit of shellac on, just a shellac sealer, let that harden, and then try and go over again with some higher grits. But I think I must use about 20 pounds worth of sanding discs so far, so it's getting expensive. Right, this is a blonde shellac sealer that we use on the outside. I'm just hoping it gives us a kind of a more stable surface to be able to sand on. I don't know if it'll work, but anything's worth a try. Okay, I've done the final bit of sanding, and we're ready to put on the abrasive paste again. As usual, using the True Grit abrasive paste. It may get stuck in a couple of these holes, but we'll be able to blow it out afterwards. It's looking quite nice though, isn't it? I know it's been an absolute pain and we haven't quite ended up with the design we wanted to at the start, but that's the nature of wood turning. Things change. You have to adapt. Okay, we'll clean this off with isopropyl, give it a good clean. Make sure we remove all of the abrasive paste. Okay, that's nice and dry now. I'll add a couple of coats of full strength shellac. I'm not going to put it on too thickly, I'm just going to put nice thin coats on and then build it up to a nice shine. Okay, right, I'll let that sit. Cut it back a little bit with a bit of very fine wire wool and then apply a few more coats. I'll bring it back and we can look at the finished article. Well, there we go. A Thuya Burl bowl. It's certainly been an interesting project. I'm in absolute love with the grain of this wood. It is just absolutely phenomenal in so many ways. But I'm not fun with trying to sand it. Because there's so much sap in these woods that sanding is so unbelievably hard that it does slightly detract from the experience of turning it. I mean, turning it's wonderful, you get beautiful clean lines, you know, it does pretty much what you want it to do, but when you come to finishing it to a standard that you would really hope to get from something so beautiful, you know, it really was made just that little bit harder because of all the sap. But anyway, we got there. It's still a very hefty piece. We kept the walls about 1.5 inches thick, so it's still got that wonderful heft to it. There's nothing you can put in this really that's going to tip it over, and that's really what I wanted from this piece. I wanted it to be, you know, completely imposing, and I think the design we did in it really helped that along. Now, I don't usually sell my pieces unless asked to do so, but I've had quite a few requests recently, so what I'm intending to do on the run up to Christmas is to put a few pieces online for people to buy. I'm not quite sure whether to put them on an Etsy page or something like that, or to put them on eBay in an auction, no reserve, no £1 start or something like that, and if you want it, you want it. eBay is probably slightly easier for me because it does handle the international shipping. I think the international shipping through eBay is a little bit cheaper than going through the normal methods. So if you are interested in that, please leave a note in the comments below, and also please let me know if it would be better for you to go on Etsy or on eBay. But apart from that, thank you very much indeed for watching. Now, our prize giveaway is going to be this Thursday. This comes out on the Tuesday. The prize giveaway is on Thursday, and that's for the bog oak bowl that we did a week and a half ago. There's still a chance to enter. All you have to do is like, subscribe, and leave a comment on any of the videos since our last giveaway, and you're going to be entered. And like I said, the draw is going to be due on Thursday, the 19th of October. Apart from that, thank you very much indeed for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. One thing I've certainly learned is that in the future, I'm going to stick with hardwood burls. No more of this softwood for me. But apart from that, thank you very much indeed. And I'll see you next time. Thank you. Oops.